Okay, I've got a gentleman in spirit, and I feel like this gentleman was a big man. I feel he just made me stand up as tall as my little body would stretch, and he feels to me as if he was a big man. He wasn't fat, but he was big, tall, big man, huge hands. I'm getting huge hands with this man. I feel like he was very responsible. I feel like he was on task, and I feel like he was a brain person, This man knew how to use his brain more than most of us. I get the impression with him also that he was humorous, that there was a part of him that just could help anyone laugh if they chose to. And again, beyond smart, I feel like he was studious. He was studious. It feels to me studious. I feel like the number 3 might be important to this gentleman. And I also feel like he lived in a 2-story house, either a lot of your life or a lot of his life. A 2-story house.
He's showing me something about with his hands. He's like shaving or sanding or doing something with his hands. He's whatever he's working on, he's just taking a small edge of it off with his hands.
Yes.
Something about the ring, too. There's something because I feel like I've got a man that's got a huge ring because he had big hands. And there's some issue about acknowledging the size of the ring is what I'm getting. And I don't feel like he could wear rings for, I don't feel like it was an all the time thing. I feel like there was a ring, though, somewhere along the line that was acknowledged.
I feel like with all of those smart things that I said about him in the very beginning, that he's telling me that he had some gaps that he was insecure about, and that only his closest people would have known about his insecurities, that he had these little parts of him that couldn't quite understand why they did it that way, but it feels to me as if he felt inadequate in just the smallest. It feels like almost a crack in the wood, like it's not big, but he's really, it's important to him. He wishes that he could have done all of the parts, but we all know that we can't do all the parts. So, but for him, this is important to him, and he wishes that he could have done all the parts.
Yeah. All that feels to me, though, is that it was kind of more of a self thing, that he acknowledged his own small weaknesses. No one else felt that. I feel like I've got a strong person here that had a demeanor that was confident and kind and loving, all the parts, but sometimes we're our own worst enemy, and that's the way it felt like to me. It was more of a, I wish saying to himself, I wish I could have done this better, I wish I could have done that better, but he really did it better. It feels like to me.
Fred, I heard part of one of your stories. Would we be talking about your father?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I believe we're with Fran. We're going to stay with Fran. And so because I've heard some of your story, I want you to know that what I'm asking for is information that I would not possibly have heard then. Now, David doesn't know that story. I want him to hear that speech. We're really honored because Fran is in a group with me called Keynote Communicators, and it's a new group of professional speakers. And so I had the opportunity to hear Fran give one of her speeches, and I'm really honored by that. And one of her speeches was a lot to do with her father. So that's where that was. I want to ask for things that I would not have heard from that speech.
You didn't know about the ring.
And David does not know most of the speech. He knows that I admire you and love you. And that's about how far that went. So. Okay.
He's showing me that he had systems. I feel like I'm categorized. Everything feels categorized to me, like there was a system for everything. Like it almost like there's a system for making coffee in the morning. There was always an organization of something. Again, it almost feels to me like those were things that he imposed upon himself. He really had this desire to work as good as he could, to be the best he could be. I guess is the best way to say it. Honor comes up big with him. The word honor just feels huge with him.
Huge.
Fred, I feel like his joints gave out on him. I feel like this man was in a lot of pain before he crossed over. I get the impression with him that there was no help with that. Nobody could help him enough with the pain that this man had to go through just before he crossed over. And it feels like it was progressive. I get the impression that was progressive. And I feel like he used to say, I just don't understand the pain. Why do we have to do the pain? I don't understand the pain. Friend, was it him that taught you to ride your bicycle?
Yes.
Yes. He feels like when he taught you to ride bicycle, that you were very young, and that he didn't push that on you, but you were stubborn, and you decided young that you would learn to ride your bicycle, and that he had to bend way over is the picture that I'm getting with you and riding this bicycle. And with reference to you, would I get a number 1? Were you either the first child or maybe his favorite?
I was first, and
You were first.
might have been.
Number
Maybe.
number one child. It's giving me the number 1 for you. I feel like there's a journal that you might have that would be from him
Yes.
and precious to you.
Yes.
It even feels more so that when you write in yours, it's as though, I almost want to say you're channeling him in your journal. I don't know if the influence is for speaking or speeches, but it feels as though that there's something about that that is a connection with you two, and it's almost as though your journaling is him directing or something.
Friend, this whole reading, what I've really gotten is how proud he is of you. And that really is the entire influx of this reading for you, is that you never let him fall down all of your born days, that you stood strong when it was the hardest. We don't have any in here, but that you stood strong when it was the hardest and made him proud your entire life, that there was never a time that you let him fall down as far as a father looking at a daughter, and that he knows some of those times. And he's saying to me that even right now, that is not easy for you, that you're still standing tall like he was, and you're still holding yourself proud, and you're making him proud. And that's what that feels like to me. Okay. And we'll leave that with transparency.
Would you like just a little bit of feedback?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Always.
There were 2 things that you said. I know this was my father. The 2 things that I believe you in particular said, David, about the ring, big ring. It was the opposite. My father's hands were so big that his wedding ring cut into his finger, and they wanted to cut the ring off, and they wouldn't let him, and we actually had to go on emergency to the hospital one night to have him cut the ring off. So you were right there. And the other thing was teaching me to ride the bike.
Okay.
Remember how he was leaning over?
Yes.
It was a tricycle, and he got on the tricycle at 6'6". It made me stand on the back,
Oh.
and that's how he taught me to ride.
Oh.
So I mean, nobody would have done that. So thank you. You did a
Absolutely.
wonderful job.
Of course. Good.
Appreciate the input.